This video is how to perform a two proportions test in Quantum Excel. The two proportions test is also sometimes called the two sample proportions test or the test of proportions. To do the two proportions test, you need to make sure that Quantum Excel is running. You can tell that Quantum Excel is running if you see QXL Monte Carlo, QXL Stat Tools, and QXL DOE in the Excel ribbon. If you don't see that, it means that Quantum Excel is not running and you need to start Quantum Excel just like you would any other application. And there's a video on our website for how to do that. I have an example data set in columns A and B, and they are the results of processing a part using either method A or B. The results are either pass or fail. Very important to note that for a test of proportions, you must be using binomial data, which means that there can be only two possible outcomes. There is pass or fail. It doesn't have to be pass or fail. It could be yes or no. It could be left or right, but there can only be two possible outcomes. If we could have left, center, and right, that is no longer binomial, and therefore you should not use the test of proportions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the data, and then I'm going to click on QXL Stat Tools, Hypothesis Test, Attribute Test, and then Two Proportions Test. Quantum Excel asks me the data range, and if I had not pre-selected it, I could select it now, but I have pre-selected it, so I'm going to click on Finish. When I click on Finish, Quantum Excel creates the results of the hypothesis test. Notice that the null hypothesis is that the population proportions are the same. The Greek letter pi is often used to describe population proportion, and so I can rewrite this as pi a is equal to pi b, where pi a is the population proportion of method A and pi b is the population proportion for method B. The alternate hypothesis is that the proportions are not the same. So I could rewrite that as pi a is not equal to pi b. The resulting p-value is 0.1384. Because 0.1384 is higher than our decision criteria of 0.05, Quantum Excel displays insufficient evidence. And down below, we can see the 95% confidence interval for the test proportion difference between method A and method B. Another way of rewriting this is that negative 0.096 is less than pi A minus pi B, which is less than 0.696. And that is how you perform a two sample proportions test. Of note, it is very rare for us to get data in this form. It is much more likely that we would get the summarized data. So instead of us getting a spreadsheet where somebody gives us column A and column B, and for each test did it pass or fail, that someone would count the results and give the results to us as a count. So for this data set, I'm just going to count the number of passes. So quickly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then for method B, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can see that for method A, 8 out of the 10 passed. And then for method B, we had 5 out of the 10 passed. It's much more likely that you're going to get an email from someone that says 8 out of the 10 passed and 5 out of 10 passed for method A and method B respectively. So it's pretty uncommon to actually have a spreadsheet with the data in it. We can handle this formatted data as well. So I click on QXL Stat Tools, Hypothesis Test, Attribute Test, and Two Proportions Test. And this time, and instead of leaving the data source as Excel, I'm going to click over here to Manual. When I click on Manual, the UI changes, and now I can type the data sets in manually instead of selecting the data from an Excel spreadsheet. So the first data set name is method A, sample size is 10, and the number of events, in this case an event is a pass, were 8. And then the second data set name is method B, sample size is 10, and the number of events is 5. And now when I click on Finish, Quantum Excel will give me exactly the same results, same hypothesis, same p-value, same insufficient evidence in the same confidence interval. That's how you perform a two proportions test in Quantum Excel if your data is summarized for you already.